let's just go across to the other big developing story we've been following, and that, of course, is the whole controversy over the law minister's meeting with the CBI director over a status report into the coal scam to be given to the Supreme Court. We broke the story yesterday on the law minister having apparently made changes, making written changes in the report. Well, today, the government's coming out with its defense, but is it convincing? Srinivasan Jain, what do you have on that? You and Sunil Prabhu have been tracking that story.
That's right, Sonia. It's actually fairly unprecedented that the government started off from when the Indian Express first broke the story with complete silence, then actually claimed that they had, at best, had some consultations on this entire report of the CBI, the status report that is preparing for the Supreme Court on the coal scam. And now, as Sunil Prabhu is reporting, because he's had extended talks with both officials in the PMO as well as senior officials very close to the law minister, that it goes much beyond that, Sunil, doesn't it? Where you've actually been getting a sense of how extensive the word that the PMO is using, the PMO sources, consultations have been between the CBI and the Prime Minister's office, as well as also with the Prime Minister's office claiming that there were modifications made to that status report, but these were just grammatical corrections. Now, these are, of course, extremely dubious claims to make, because remember, the CBI is investigating the government here, so there's a direct conflict of interest. What is it doing with having all of these consultations? If we can go across to Sunil Prabhu now, if we are able to connect to him. Sunil, do take us through what you've heard from your sources in the PMO, because it's for the first time really that we're getting the full extent. We've always known about Mr. Ashwani Kumar's involvement in calling that meeting in his office, but now we're getting much more details about the PMO's own involvement.
That's right, Srinivasan, and I think the points that they were trying to emphasize was quite clear. One, that this was not a one-off exercise. This was a consultation process that was continuous. It started right from the time when this CBI was asked to handle the investigation into the allocation of the coal sector. This was after the CAG's report was placed in Parliament. The Prime Minister had made the statement. The CBI was asked to investigate, and that is why it was a continuous process. It was not a one-off incident. And the PM officials were quite categorical that it was only confined to the process of coal allocation. About what were the processes, the Act, the screening committees, how did they go about it? Because we must remember the Prime Minister was the coal minister for a substantial period of time when that allocation of coal mines took place, and it is in that background that they were assisting the CBI in helping them understand the entire process, but at no stage, and they're quite categorical about this, Srinivasan, that they did try to influence the investigation, or for that matter, try to get into the alleged malpractices of any particular individual, be it the Congress MP, Mr. Darda, or anybody else. They did not get into that, into those specifics. They had very
Sonia, that the interesting bit when you're saying that the defense at the Prime Minister's office and the Law Ministry is giving that, that these are consultations. I think the point that's being made is that how can you consult when there are two opposite sides? That this, in a sense, is the defense and the prosecution. The CBI in this case is the prosecution, the government in this sense the defense. So how can you have prosecution and defense lawyers actually meeting? And we've seen the wording is interesting. We're seeing wording, the law minister's enthusiasm convinced him to call this meeting. The changes were only grammatical. Does this make logical sense? Enthusiasm to call a meeting with the other side, grammatical mistakes to be corrected in a CBI report?
Well, that's a question, Sonia, that will always be, and of course, the final verdict will come from the court on the 30th of April, once, of course, the CBI clarifies. The CBI director is expected to give that affidavit on the 26th, and then, of course, the court will hear it, the Supreme Court, on the 30th of April, and that's the big question mark with which the government will have to answer about the propriety of this entire exercise. But they are quite categorical. At no stage, that's from the government and from the law ministry point of view, that did they try to influence this entire process? Did they try to, at any stage, try to influence the CBI on how to go about the entire processes of the malpractice? No, that was not their brief. They are quite categorical that whatever they did was in the best interest. Their intention was to ensure.
So that's That's the focus of the defence. But of course, interestingly, the Parliament session begins on the 22nd, and Srinivasan, the government likely to face uncomfortable questions there. I'm going to hand over to you now for your interviews really on this burning issue, again on how two sides, how the prosecution and defence can actually consult on what their report should be to the Supreme Court, because it's a larger question for everyone who's present in that meeting. The court can actually haul everyone in that meeting up.
Exactly. Thanks very much indeed, Sonia. Well, yes, that absolutely is the case here, that gradually, as the government has revealed the full extent of how much it has been engaging with the CBI on this particular coal scam report, demonstrates the extent to which the Chinese wall between an autonomous, independent investigating agency and the government has been gradually eroded, where it now appears that not just one, the law minister, but we've also seen others who are on the other side of the fence, which includes, of course, the Attorney General who was present at that meeting, and also now the Prime Minister's office, which is technically under the CBI's ambit of investigation, all talking to the CBI, making changes to the report. And I'm sure the Supreme Court, if it gets the full picture, will have very strong things to say about that. Let's now start getting in some reactions to this big breaking news on NDTV. We spoke a short while ago to Solicitor General, former Solicitor General Harish Salve. Sir, we had you on last night, and today we have more details of the extent to which government sources are saying that there was not just consultations, but actual grammatical changes were made in the report. This is again all euphemism that the government appears to be using. Is this completely unprecedented?
What worries me about the problem is the institutional breakdown, as it were. See, CBI has been asked by the Supreme Court to conduct an inquiry, to assist the Supreme Court. This is not the first time. There are SITs which are appointed from time to time. The special investigation teams conduct investigation. Whenever the court directs somebody to investigate and give a report in a sealed cover, it goes straight from that body or authority to the court. So there is no occasion for the government or anybody else for that to have a look at what is being handed over.
Right, and you know, the thing is that now we obviously earlier had reported on the law minister's own role, but now tonight, as you've seen, we've also mentioned the extent to which the PMO was also meeting the CBI. They've repeatedly used this euphemism, consultation. But what does consultation mean? Isn't the CBI technically questioning or interrogating the PMO?
The key issue is, was the CBI asking them questions which it legitimately could, to build up its report and to gather material for its report? You may not want to say interrogate at this stage. You may say the CBI was interviewing them. If somebody is wrongly using the word consulting, because the word consulting is to arrive at a consensus for a decision. The correct word should be, if the CBI was interviewing the Prime Minister's office, asking them for explanations to put in its report, to present a balanced report, prior to or in the course of preparing its report. That is one matter. But to say that after the report is prepared, it goes back and is first seen by the eyes of somebody other than the Supreme Court,
yes,
that is very worrying.
Mr. Salve, what are the implications now for all those who are involved in this process of interference or tampering or whatever one calls it? What kind of action can the court take, if at all?
Well, there are 2 or 3 separate dimensions of this. I'm reasonably certain the court will not take very kindly to the fact that the report has been discussed with anyone, particularly the government. Beyond that, I think an admonition by the Supreme Court is serious enough for the CBI. The second is, and this is the most serious issue in the matter, today there are at least half a dozen cases I know where people, including Mr. Prashant Bhushan filing a number of PILs, says appoint an SIT, don't trust the CBI, they are under the control of the government. Now, up till now, the answer is no, they are India's premium investigating agency. You have to have faith with them. They are independent of the government. If suddenly we find out that the perception of the government is that the CBI is their client and they are entitled to advise the CBI on how to present charge sheets and how to conduct investigations, it will feed the demand for SITs in all sensitive cases, which is the second more important fallout. And the third, of course, is whether there was a correct or incorrect representation made to the court on the course of the hearing. That has a completely different dimension.
Right. Last question to you, sir, is as a law officer. Now, you've been Solicitor General, and we've also reported, as you are aware, that the Attorney General himself was at this meeting with the Law Minister and the CBI Director, even though the Attorney General is on the other side of the fence. As I pointed out, he's actually representing the government. Now, in your time as Solicitor General, was this ever made as a request to you to attend such meetings? And were you, and should you have been in that position, what would you have done? Would you have attended?
I think that's a very loaded question. All I can tell you is in the 3 years which I was in office, no such occasion arose. My law minister never asked me to come and visit him for any such matter. CBI has consulted us as lawyers at times where they felt a particular case in law was made out or not made out, never on the factual inquiries, never ever have any comments ever been asked for on what has been found by the CBI. So it's a completely new culture, I'm sorry to say.